reality of the situation is that Arsenal Football Club and specifically Mikel Arteta wants Julian Alvarez. Now, will it get done is a whole other matter. But with 6 days or 7 days or so left in the transfer window, it is clear to see that Arsenal is going all out for Julian Alvarez. However, at this time, Julian Alvarez is still focused on Barcelona, and based on what we know and based on what is reported. There's no doubt about it that Julian Alvarez does make Arsenal football team a better team. Arsenal Football Club, I should say, a better team. And I'm here to explain why. Now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. This is CJ from the Gunner's Corner. And this video is based on Julian Alvarez and just a quick discussion on Julian Alvarez and why Arteta is so in for him and what he would bring to this team if he were to come. Julian Alvarez is a player with previous Premier League experience. We know that he was a treble winner in Manchester City's team, a couple successful years there, obviously playing second fiddle to Erling Haaland. And, we all understand why. I mean, Erling Haaland is the best around at the moment, if not one of, along with Harry Kane and the likes, Mbappe. But Julian Alvarez has gone up in our estimation since he's left City. We knew there was a talented player when he was at City. He's gone to Atletico Madrid. And the eye test will tell you, certainly based on last season at least, while his numbers in terms of goals in the La Liga for Atletico Madrid weren't the greatest, again, the eye test, we watch football with our eyes, football purists, the ones who enjoy the beautiful game. You look at Julian Alvarez's game and you can understand why, again, Arteta loves this kind of player. He did numbers in the Champions League, brilliant for Atletico down the stretch in the Champions League. I remember watching him score, a beautiful free kick against Barcelona, contributed to knocking them out of the Champions League when Atletico came up against Barcelona in the Champions League knockout stages last year. Just a brilliant all-around footballer, you have to admit. And he has the stature of a Sergio Aguero. If I were to compare him to, somebody similar to him once upon a time, especially a similar Argentinian striker. Sergio Aguero fits the bill. You look at somebody with that low center of gravity, somebody with that tight, close ball control, strength with the low center of gravity as well, ball striking ability. Again, he doesn't get the 20 goals a season that maybe a Haaland gets or, those kind of players. But I think he does have the potential, first of all. And second of all, if you look at his ball striking ability, he does have the ability to pop up in moments and strike the ball, from range, from distance. We saw for Argentina in the World Cup as well. The curler, I think it was into the top corner. I forgot which opponent it was against. It might have been against Switzerland where Julian Alvarez puts it top corner in the knockout stage. It's just also that ability to just pop up with, you know, magic. And that's something that this Arsenal side misses at times, just a player who can grab the game by the scruff of the neck when the team isn't playing well, somebody with individual brilliance, somebody with moments. And like I said, we saw that for Atletico last season against Barcelona in the Champions League. In the World Cup again when they were playing Switzerland and they were looking for, somebody to just pop up with a moment of brilliance when they weren't playing well. Julian Alvarez puts it in the top corner from range, curler into the top corner, as I mentioned. And these are the kind of moments that he has. He has moments in him. We saw it even briefly at City, right? But again, he's never going to stand out when you have Haaland there. But you see these glimpses of moments in him, whether it's long range efforts, whether it's, dribbles past two, three guys, slotting into the bottom corner. You just watch him and he has it. He has everything, you would say as a striker, as a number nine, and as a false nine. And when you look at why Arteta wants to bring him to the club specifically, like I compared him to Sergio Aguero in that sense, right? Just a player with that low center of gravity, tight dribbling ability, gets out of tight spaces, and again popping up with moments and match winning moments. And not least to mention the fact that he is Argentinian as well. If you look at something more close to home from an Arsenal perspective, and you look at somebody like a Gabriel Jesus, right? Gabriel Jesus, when he first came to Arsenal, obviously we know by the way that his career at Arsenal was hampered by injuries eventually. But that first, what, 5 months, 6 months prior to the Winter World Cup in 2022, Jesus was one of the best players in the league. He was looking like he was going to go on to be, our best number nine, dare I say, since the likes of a Van Persie, since the likes of a Thierry Henry. Jesus was on that trajectory, and he played the nine position in this Arsenal system in a way that, is unique to how Arteta wants it to play, which is almost like a false nine kind of striker. He drops in deep, collects the ball from deep position, gets others involved in and around him, right? Gets the wingers involved. and gets the midfielders involved, that link from midfield to attack, right? We've seen certainly in the 22-23 season, and here's why this is key. Let me just add this part. 22-23 season, we saw some of our best attacking football under Mikel Arteta. I would argue as well 23-24, right? With Kai Havertz, Odegaard, and Saka heavily involved. Now, why is that important? You fast forward to 26-27 season where we're looking to retain the Premier League and do something a little bit different than we've done in previous years. You know, if we try and play this sort of pragmatic approach and win games based off of 1-0 tight set pieces and then just defend and see the games out, it's risky football. It's a risky way of playing. This season, I think we're going to want to, and I think we're going to need to incorporate attacking style once again and look fluid going forward and look something similar to 22-23 and even 23-24, where we were scoring goals, we looked fluent, the movement was great. And everybody on the pitch at the time, certainly in an attacking sense, you trusted with the ball at their feet because they can make things happen. They had high footballing IQ. They were able to link up the play with others and combine and create patterns of play. And the goals we were scoring, again, they were vibrant, they were fluent. It had attacking imprints all over it. And again, we haven't seen that for a few seasons now. But back at those times, who was at the heart of it? What was at the heart of it? The system was, again, fluent, it was movement. It was not static. It was not, built around one player. It was built around, a few players like Saka's, your Martinelli's, your Odegaard's getting double digits in goals, certainly in the 22-23 season. Jesus, I believe, was double figures that season as well. And if he stayed fit the entire 22-23 season, how many numbers could Jesus have put up, right? But certainly from 22-23, Jesus was the spearhead of that attacking fluid system. He got the best out of Martinelli. He got the best out of Saka, got the best out of Odegaard. That front four was electric that year. We scored goals early on in games. We scored goals in numbers and packs. And it was just beautiful to watch. It really, really was. And we fell by the wayside. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that Jesus got injured. So when you fast forward now to what we're looking to do again in 26-27, I think Arteta is trying to change us a little bit and go back to, like I said, obviously you still want to be defensively sound and have that defensive structure, but I think he wants to go back to showing that we have something about us in attack as well, and that we can be fluid again going forward, and that we can score goals, and that we can look good on the eye. Once again, as Arsenal Football Club, the identity of Arsenal, which is beautiful football, attacking football, certainly under Arsene Wenger, right? I think it's time we go back to that. And now we can win games as champions, win games and play games with a bit of swagger, with a bit of, you know, va-va-voom, shall we say, about us. Impose ourselves as champions and say, yeah, we're not just going to stumble over the finish line in games. We're going to win convincingly, similar to like what we did against Coventry in the opening game of the season when we won 3-0. We're champions. We're going to impose ourselves. We're going to impose our football and we're going to play it in style. And I think that's what we're going to look to get back to this season. And I think when you look at specifically Jesus and the way he played that number nine role in the first 5, 6 months that he came into the club, when he was just, creating havoc for defenses year after year, sorry, week after week, shall I say, Jesus just being the focal point of all of that. Julian Alvarez is a similar type of profile. If you look at it, and let's be real, right? Obviously, Jesus, the irony is Jesus is Brazilian, Alvarez is Argentinian. In fact, I don't recall the last time we had an Argentinian player at the club, certainly of that stature. But Julian Alvarez, right, again, similar to Jesus, similar to Sergio Aguero, again, low center of gravity, strong on the ball, can get out of tight spaces, can dribble, can create, can pass, can play make, and obviously can pop up with match-winning moments and creating winners and moments for themselves, right? Don't rely on service. Now, why is this important? Because look, we're talking about a Victor Gyökeres who's currently in the side. Let's be honest. I think it was very telling last game that, Gyökeres was on the bench, didn't come on against Coventry at all. I think that was a bit of a sign. Not necessarily that we're going to get rid of Gyökeres because that's going to be tough to do now with a week left of the transfer window closing, but a clear indication that Gyökeres was not favored and fancied by Arteta as first choice last summer. I think that was clear. I think he wanted a Sesko, again, a link-up player type of striker, whilst a little bit different than Alvarez, link-up play nonetheless, somebody who brings others into play, hold-up play, etc. I don't think Gyökeres was Arteta's first choice. And I think that, that's clear to see. Last season, obviously, Kai Havertz was injured for a good part of the season. But as we saw, when Havertz was fit in the important games, Havertz started, right? Carabao Cup final, Champions League final. I think our last home game of last season against Burnley when we won 1-0 and Kai Havertz scored the only goal, right? The crunch games, the clutch moments, the clutch games, sorry, shall I say, are the important games down the stretch. Arteta showed that Havertz is still his main guy because Havertz has a lot of the attributes and the fundamental ways that we play, as previously mentioned, when it comes to link-up play and being fluid in movement and getting others involved. Again, Kai Havertz has that as well. Gyökeres, when he's in the team, you very much have to play to his strengths. And we have too many good players in our team to say we're going to switch our approach and play to Gyökeres' strengths, right? At Sporting Lisbon, with all due respect, he can do that. Even in Sweden, you can do that because Gyökeres is one of the main men, the main guys, right, for those respective teams. At Arsenal, you're not the main guy. There's Havertz, there's Saka, there's Odegaard, Eze. Like, there's a bunch of quality players in those attacking areas, certainly around Gyökeres. We don't need to build a system around Gyökeres because we have players that are, with all due respect, better than him. So we're not going to compromise our style of play, and Arteta's not going to compromise his style of play to suit Gyökeres because again, Gyökeres is not a Thierry Henry, he's not a Lionel Messi, right? So those are the kind of players that, of course, maybe you're going to pattern your game around. But again, with all due respect to Gyökeres, he's not that good for us to make wholesale changes to the way we play to suit him. And I think that's clear to see now. We started the season already. Community Shield, Havertz starts up top. Coventry, Havertz starts up top. And again, we play some good football. The game just comes naturally to the players like Havertz and Odegaard and Saka who already have that previous connection and have that, footballing IQ, that I like to say, the IQ, the awareness, the link up play, the knowing where each other is. Gyökeres just doesn't have that naturally, right? He's a bully ball kind of striker, fox in the box. He doesn't have the best link of play. He's not gonna hold the ball up for you. He finds himself on the ground a lot for a big, strong guy. He's constantly wrestling with center backs and often loses these duels and finds himself on the ground. And the ball gets turned over and we're back chasing towards our own goal. Now he's improved over the course of time, Gyökeres, but it hasn't been to the level enough where we can say, yeah, we're going to rely on you now to play this system that Arteta wants to play, right? A drop-in striker, a link-up play kind of striker, false nine kind of striker. That's just not Gyökeres' game. He's a fox in the box. He's a poacher. He's a bully ball striker. And again, we don't base our system around, playing towards one guy or playing towards the strengths of our number nine or get goals based solely from our number nine. It's a goals by committee system here at Arsenal. And again, in our best attacking seasons under Arteta, which you can say is 22, 23, 23, 24 seasons, we got goals by committee. We got goals in abundance from a collective as opposed to relying on an individual. And I think if there is an opportunity for Gyökeres to leave, I think that could be just it to bring in Alvarez, where again, Alvarez is not a 20 goal a season striker, not yet anyway, not right now. I'm curious to know how many goals he can get playing in this Arsenal system, but yeah, Alvarez is not that kind of striker, right? So he would suit a 22-23 system Arsenal, right? With Jesus, where yes, he's going to get his goals as well, but he's going to distribute and he's going to create and he's going to bring others into play and he's going to give center backs and defenders something to worry about, which will free up spaces for other players, right? Like your Zolases and your Sakas and your, Maduekes, your Ezes, Odegaards, whoever else is in and around, our false nine, our number nine, and Julian Alvarez. And that's the difference, right? You can automatically and already see how Alvarez will make Arsenal better and how he will get better himself playing in this system. I think it's a win-win situation. Alvarez will come in and totally thrive with better players around him, better footballers around him, I'd argue, at Arsenal than what he's playing with at Atletico. Those are good players at Atletico, mind you, but again, we're talking about here at Arsenal, your Bruno Guimaraes, your Declan Rice's, your Odegaard, that midfield that would be in and around Alvarez. Is a level above what they have at Atletico Madrid, let's be honest. And like I said, your Sakas, your Zolases, your guys who are very direct, you know, guys who again just know where to be, the areas to be on the pitch. The situations, the pressure situations that we'd find ourselves in, the guys that have risen above that, your Eze's as well. It's another player that needs to get respected when I talk about attacking players and attacking fluidity. Again, guys who've been there, done that, can handle the pressure, have won the Premier League. And now, look, let's be honest, right? We're trying to go one further. We're trying to win a Champions League. And if you bring in a Julian Alvarez, I think that's the difference between Arsenal winning the Champions League and not. I think you bring in a Julian Alvarez, you know, in the Champions League, it's about moments sometimes. It's about, world-class players, you know, pretty much deciding the game for you. And as I've always, said previously, when the game is 0-0, when the game is 1-1 and it's tight and it's a Champions League semifinal, it's a Champions League final, and we're not playing well and there's nerves and there's pressure, who's going to be the one player with that moment of magic to get us out of jail? Do we have that player? We can say it was Saka or it is Saka, but that's a Saka. We're basing that on the fact of Saka of two seasons ago, 3 seasons ago when he was at his best and he was injury free. We're hoping Saka comes back and has the season that, we're hoping that he has in terms of numbers again and being the main man for us, but we just haven't seen that for a while now, and that was due to injuries. Julian Alvarez is that player aside from Saka that's on the market somewhat right now, somewhat because I say somewhat because he wants Barca still, so he's on the market, but we don't know. That's still 50-50 on whether or not we can get him. But Julian Alvarez is that player at the moment that's, if we were to bring him in, he would be the player that you look at that you could turn to and you can say and trust and say, yeah, I need a match winner. The team's not playing well, we're not playing well. Who can create that magic for us? Who can pull that rabbit out of the hat and win us a game? We don't currently have those kind of players. I don't think in attack. If you take Saka out of it, we have good players in attack. We have a Havertz, we have a Zolis, we have, you know, even Odegaard and Eze. I mean, they haven't shown that level of consistency to do that. Eze was supposed to come in and be that player. He can be on his day, but what makes you world class is, and you need to do it more than on your day. You need to be consistent. We can't just kind of hope and pray that you're having one of those days where, yeah, you're on it today. No, no, you need to be on it more often than not, right? And Odegaard can be that player if he gets back to his best this season, but we don't know what kind of Odegaard is going to turn up, and that's the problem. Hasn't done it for 2 seasons now, so we can't rest on our laurels. You need to go out and get these proven players and an Alvarez, and that's what the best of the best clubs do, right? You gamble, yes, it's going to cost a lot of money, but you gamble, you put the money down, and you get proven players, and in hopes that the return is good for you. And again, it's better than resting on our laurels and sitting and doing nothing. We can't afford to sit and do nothing. We're in a good position right now. You need to improve in a position of strength. We're Premier League winners, Champions League finalists, and as far as the Champions League is concerned, you want to go one further this time around. Arsenal's not going to have a better opportunity to win the Champions League than they do in this next, I would say, 2 to 3 year period, maybe 2 year period, right? We've gone from semifinals 2 years ago to finals last year to, hopefully being able to go one step further. And I should add that before the semifinals, right, was quarterfinals exit against Bayern Munich. And then, like I said, semifinals, yeah, quarterfinals exit to Bayern Munich and 2024, 2025, semifinals lost to PSG, finals lost to PSG, 2026. So in 2027, can we go one further? That's the hope and that's the aim. And we have the team in place. We have the structure there. Goalkeeper is one of the best in the world. Backline is one of the best in the world. Midfield is now one of the best in the world, I think, as a unit when you add Bruno Guimaraes. Who is that player in attack? I think that's the one piece that Arsenal is missing, a game changer, a magic moment player. Um, a player with that sprinkle of stardust who can, like I said, create something out of nothing for himself, doesn't rely on service. Alvarez fits that bill, can create out of nothing. He dragged Atletico, at times last season, in big games and big moments player. That's exactly what Alvarez is. And like I said, for the reasons that I mentioned already throughout this video, in terms of the system and how we get the best out of him and how he gets the best out of us, I think Arteta really and truly wants to return to a similar system of 22-23. And it's a shame that Jesus can no longer be the spearhead of that anymore. That link player in the attack, the false nine sort of striker that gets the best out of those around him. It's a shame he can't be that anymore because of injuries. Um, but now when you look at the model of that kind of player who's on the market, Alvarez certainly fits the bill. And it's no coincidence that we've heard all summer long that this is Arteta's number one target because I think Arteta is looking to get back to that sort of system from 22-23, 23-24, where Arsenal was vibrant and at their fluent attacking best, scoring goals for fun, emptying stadiums everywhere we go. Alvarez will definitely fit that bill for that kind of model that we're trying to get back to. And then, like I said, it's no surprise, man. It really is no surprise that Arteta's been very keen on this player for a while now. Um, the problem is with 6 days left in the window, in the transfer window, can we go out and still get this player? Is it achievable? Is it realistic? Like the Vinny thing, I was afraid that, it's 50-50. You put all your eggs in the Vinny basket, you get him, great, fantastic. Now you look like you can win the Champions League. You don't get Vinny, now you're left scrambling because now there's no real targets left that are realistic, that are feasible, that are on the market. And this is what happens. And then I think we're in a similar situation with Alvarez. You get Alvarez over the line, again, that can go from you potentially winning the Champions League versus not getting him, and then you're all of a sudden not really looking like Champions League favorites or Champions League contenders when you look at the other big clubs around us. Maybe to say not contenders is not fair. I think we would definitely be contenders, but again, when you put a Julian Alvarez in this team, because like I said, the spearhead, the world-class player in attack is the one piece missing in this Arsenal side. I think that automatically, boosts the bookies, everybody's rivals, fans alike, everybody's chances, or putting everybody's chances of Arsenal winning the Champions League that much higher when you have that kind of player. So, um, I don't know, man. It's going to be tough to see. At what point do you pivot away from Alvarez because it looks unlikely, or do you just keep trying till the end of the window? I don't think the solution is not to do anything. I think you got to do something. I think you got to try for Alvarez, obviously, but if not, you need to have succession plans in place because, like I said, with the objective of trying to win a Champions League this season, I wouldn't want to wait, right? I'm not going to wait and say, okay, well, we'll try again next year. There's no time like the present, right? The power of now. You have to go out and try and do something now. And I think it's worth rolling the dice now because Arteta said it after the Champions League final last time out. He said we need to be ambitious, smart, and fast. And I'm paraphrasing there, but those are some of the words that he used off the back of the Champions League final defeat. And so far in attack, yes, we brought in Zolis, but the whole point of Arteta making that speech, I'm sure, was to bring in proven world-class players, attacking players at the top end of the pitch. And okay, we didn't get Rodgers. We didn't get Vinny, right, for different reasons. Rodgers, we chose not to pay the money. Vinny, we couldn't convince him to come over Real Madrid. Fair enough. But still, you have to have succession plans in place. It's not enough for me to say I tried. We need to go out and get these signings over the line. And Alvarez will feel like another I tried moment. If Alvarez doesn't want to come because he wants Barca, again, we've left it too late now to say, okay, well, we're probably just gonna sit there and say, yeah, well, we'll wait till January. We'll wait till next summer. That would be a shame for me. It really would. Have your targets in place, number one, two, three, four targets, whoever they may be, but you got to get one of them over the line. You do. I think we have a history, whether we like it or not, call out Arteta's attacking identity in terms of talent ID for the attacking players, Mudryks of the past and Rafinha's and these sort of players, whether you like them or not, we do have a history of Arteta missing out on some of his number one targets in attack. Even Morgan Rogers, you can say this summer for one reason or another, we didn't get him. There has been a bit of a history there. Sesko, I would say, Vlahovic, a bit of a history of Arteta missing out on some of his top attacking targets. Um, Alvarez feels like another one this summer that if we don't get him, it'll be another opportunity missed. But again, you have to have succession plans in place, and I think it would be a gamble to not get anybody. I'm not on the recruitment team. It's not my job to do that. Now it's their job. But we needed to, you had all summer long. I'm not using the World Cup as an excuse. It shouldn't be an excuse. We had all summer long to try and figure out who we're going to bring in, plan A, B, C to this attack to help us win the Champions League and help us to go back in the Premier League. And to rest on our laurels and do nothing and not bring in that proven, world-class attacker or somebody who's established in the world stage of football in the attack. To not do anything, I don't think is acceptable. I think it would be a shame. But Julian Alvarez right now, as we speak, ladies and gentlemen, with 6 or 7 days left in the window, like I said, is the number one target. If you're going to go all out to get him, make sure you get him. It's 50-50 right now whether or not it's going to happen. He still wants Barca, but Atletico don't want to sell. We apparently will stump up the cash. We'll do all it takes, similar to Vinny Jr. I don't think it would be a good look if you miss out on both of Vinny and an Alvarez. You got to try and get one over the line. You got to try and get Alvarez over the line at this moment in time. Berta, work your magic. Arteta, work your magic. We understand that Arteta's been talking to Alvarez directly, trying to convince him. So this is it, man. This is the make or break. This is, the difference between us, like I said, getting that Champions League and not, I think, a player of this level of this ability who's left, on the market. So let's see what we do. But you can totally see and understand, listen, the appeal, why we want to bring him in, what he will bring to this team, and what we can get out of him. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what days left in the window. But yeah, you got to go all out for it, and you got to try to get this deal done earlier rather than later. And I say that, not leave it to deadline day. I don't think that should be a thing. I think maybe if he doesn't decide that his head is going to be turned and he wants to come to London and he wants to come to Arsenal. I don't think, if he doesn't decide that within the next few days, we need to pivot because again, we're running the risk of getting to deadline day and getting to the end of the window and nothing being done and then just saying, "Oh, well, we tried and that's good enough." No, maybe make it an ultimatum. Give yourself, a deadline of a couple of days from now and say, "Okay, if Alvarez doesn't want to come, you know, so today at the time of recording, right? Today is August 25th, Tuesday. By Thursday, Friday, let's say, if he hasn't decided or he haven't even shown any bit of interest to come to Arsenal, you got to pivot and you have to already have your backup plans in place. Whatever that is, whoever that is, up to them to decide, but that's why they get paid the big bucks. But you have to. You have to have your succession plans in place. That's all I'm going to say on it. Listen, people, I've been CJ from the Gunners Corner. We talk about Julian Alvarez in length. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are in the comments. How good of a player do you think he is? What level can he bring us to? Is he worth the money? Can he win us a Champions League? All that good stuff. Do you see what he would bring to the table tactically for this Arsenal team and how he can elevate us? Give me all your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, hype, subscribe, as we always say. I've been CJ from the Gunners Corner, and we'll see you guys soon. We're out. Bye bye.